maize farmers because farmers from the North Rift have rejected the new prices of maize as announced by the government on Monday. The Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund announced it will be buying maize being harvested now by farmers at 2,300 shillings per 90 kilograms bag, down from 3,200 shillings last season. Now, the move is now setting the stage for more conflict with farmers, some of whom are still smarting from losses made in last year's harvest.
A visit to Eunice Rono's farm at Moiben constituency in Uasin Gishu County clearly reveals some of the hurdles that many maize farmers face in Kenya. Following heavy rains experienced recently, which was made worse by the high cost of farm inputs, the new maize prices pegged at 2,300 shillings are making life more unbearable to maize farmers.
Kupiga haro, mbolea, kuweka dawa, na hiyo kuspray vitu mingi, mpaka kufuna saa hii, hiyo bei iko chini sana. Tunaomba serikali yetu hii watuongezee hiyo bei kabisa. At least ifike 3,000.
Vitu vingine ambavyo vinakuwa bei kali sana kama maji imewekwa kwa packet ni bei kali, pombe imewekwa kwa chupa ni bei kali, na watoto hawatumii pombe, wagonjwa hawatumii pombe. Sasa hii mahindi ni ya kila mtu.
According to Eunice Rono, the new prices by the government are a big letdown and a joke to farmers' efforts who incurred huge costs.
Sasa hata wenye watabeba watataka pesa, wenye watapanga kwa store, wenye wataanika dawa ya kuweka kila kitu.
This came even as the governors from the North Rift Economic Bloc called for an upward review of the prices.
And therefore, this price of 2,300, I want to say me and Governor Kayemba are not part of it. And since we are in the task force, we are going to contest that and ask them that they improve the price.
We are giving the next 14 days to the Strategic Food Reserve, the National Cereals and Produce Board, the Ministry of Agriculture, to come together and agree that the priority of the farmer is well considered.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri was on Tuesday at pains, explaining the rationale for the new maize prices.
By last week it was 2,100 and now to 2,300. And therefore I should be able to provide that formula once again.
2,300 Bwana CS. You can come up with whatever formula you have. It's not acceptable by the farmers in North Rift.
Section of farmers in the North Rift region are opposed to the new price that was issued on Monday by Strategic Grain and Food Reserve. They now want President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Ministry of Agriculture to intervene. Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, Uasin Gishu County.
All right, so now let's talk to Nandi's senator, that is Samson Cherargei, to talk to us about this plight of maize farmers, and he's joining us live. And Honorable Cherargei, farmers are not in support of this new price of 2,300, including governors from the Rift Valley region.
Thank you very much for having me in studio. I agree because the North Rift Economic Bloc governors did express that the price was too low. Brenda, considering that the cost of producing 90 kilos of maize is between 1,800 to 2,200 shillings. And therefore, when you buy at maybe 2,300 shillings, it means there is no profit that farmers are making. And you know, we want to do farming in terms of, our farmers normally do in terms of commercialization, apart from subsistence farming. They do it as part of payment of school fees. They also do it to incur their own expenses that as normal Kenyans, just like people who do business. And I think we have told the Strategic Food Reserve and the National Cereals and Produce Board, they must review those prices upwards. Let us have from 2,800 to 3,000 so that the farmers can get value for what they are putting in. Because because some people would ask, why is it that maize from the outside the country, specifically Uganda, is much more, the pricing there is low? It's because the cost of producing. The inputs that you put into before getting harvesting maize is quite high, and therefore those are challenges that our farmers face. So the pricing is very low in my own opinion, and I think the SFR and the National Cereals and Produce Board, they don't have an option, but they must review upwards. Brenda, you remember Kenyans, every Kenyan, even you yourself, if you don't need to gully, you don't feel like you have eaten, and therefore it's a staple food in this country. So we must give value to the farmers that continue to farm maize so that we can have that food security that is one of the big four agenda of the president.
So are we looking at a situation whereby prices might plunge to maybe 1,000 per 90 kilograms due to the saturation of the local market being flooded with imports from a neighboring country?
No, you know, Brenda, when you talk about saturation or maize being flooded from outside the country, is because last year the Ministry of Treasury did issue a gazette notice allowing importation of the maize, and therefore it caused a lot of flooded maize in the market. And you are aware, most farmers from where I come from, most of them have not sold their crop to the National Cereals and Produce Board because the allegations where EACC and DPP are still investigating that people did import maize from outside the country to flood into the NCPB. And one ironic thing is that the CS of Agriculture, Mwangi Kiunjuri, did accept that 60% of maize that is in our storage or in strategic reserves are already affected or are aflatoxins. So we are looking, you know, if the gazette notice, and we hope this time around the Ministry of Treasury will not issue a gazette notice allowing importation so that our market will not be flooded. Finally, on that aspect, Brenda, we have seen the strategic food reserve. They have said they are supposed to buy 4 million bags, yet they are telling us they will only buy 2 million bags from our farmers locally here in Kenya, and that is why we are raising the red flag that the SFR should tell us why would they want, they had budgeted for 4 million bags, yet they want to buy 2 million bags of maize in this country. And yet the last year's crop is already still in store with farmers, and the crop is now ready. As I talk, most farmers are harvesting their maize, and they are preparing for processing and being ready to supply with NCPB. So we hope the gazette notice by the Ministry of Treasury will not be issued so that we open we open gates that people will import maize from other countries that will flood our market and therefore affect the pricing of maize in this country.
So the government budgeted for 4 million to buy 4 million bags, and now they're saying they're going to buy only 2 million bags. Then it means farmers are facing more losses because some of them are preparing to harvest more maize.
Yeah, that is why we are telling the Strategic Food Reserve at the National Cereals and Produce Board, because what they are telling us, even where I come from, there was an improved or significant bump harvest of maize across the North Rift and other maize growing regions in the country, is that there is a significant harvest of maize in this country. And therefore, you know, the biggest challenge is where we'll open our borders to allow maize to come in. But the moment we still have maize, and the SFR is still alive to the fact that not all maize that in last year was mopped up or brought to the National Cereals and Produce Board or being bought by the government. And that is why we are challenging them that why should they budget for 4 million bags, yet they indicate that they want to buy 2 million bags. Our opinion, our concern is that they should be able to mop up all the maize that is with our farmers, except for those subsistence that farmers do want for their sustenance for their families, so that in case we want to import extra maize, there should be a proper, well-researched shortage in the country, and we should be very satisfied that all farmers have supplied their maize into the National Cereals and Produce Board, and therefore they have been paid. I know that has been the issue, so that we see that going forward.
All right, and Honorable Cherargei, I'm winding up this conversation with you, but I cannot wind it up before asking you about your sentiment when it comes to Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri's statement while he appeared before the Senate committee that is probing the maize scandal, that some of these maize farmers will have to be vetted afresh before being paid their dues.
I think my position has been very clear because, you know, when the cabinet secretary in charge of agriculture, there was a letter that was written by EACC that some farmers need to be vetted. I think that is a show of moribancy. It is ineffective and lethargy in the side of the Ministry of Agriculture, National Cereals and Produce Board, and SFR, because these are some of the things. Farmers, let me tell you, Brenda, when you take maize to the National and Cereals Produce Board, you get a letter from your chief, you get a letter, you get approval from the ward administrator, you are being vetted as you present your maize to the National Cereals and Produce Board. So which vetting are you talking about? Because the EACC themselves did write a letter that they are investigating some farmers. We agree if there are ghost farmers that did supply maize to the National Cereals and Produce Board, they must be investigated, they must be brought to book, and that is what we are saying, the DPP. But this is a cover-up because the CS should be aware that the farmers who supplied 50 bags of maize, 100 bags of maize, they are the genuine farmers, yet you don't want to pay. And you know one interesting thing in the payment, farmers who supplied most maize were paid, unlike the farmers who supplied less maize. And those farmers who supplied less maize are the farmers who are genuine. And therefore, we hope these suckers of taking rounds farmers, and yet they need to pay their bills, they need to repay the loans they have taken with financial institutions. I think on the part of the Ministry of Agriculture, that is a show of ineffectiveness and lethargy. On the part of EACC, they wrote that letter around 3 months. If you remember, it is almost 90 days since they issued that letter on investigation and vetting. What is it taking them so long? Yet they have all the machinery, they have all the documentation, they have all the payment records, they have all the supply manual and manifest that they have in the National Cereals and Produce Board and SFR and the Ministry of Agriculture. So I think, in my own opinion, I think it is very unfortunate that we have to take farmers to that level, yet we have what the state has the necessary machinery to address such challenges that is being faced by NCPP and the Ministry of Agriculture.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Samson Cherargei, Senator for Nandi County. And of course, that takes us